Hi guys and welcome to my channel. Today is the best 20 DIYs of 2020. So let's get started. I will be transforming or upcycling or restoring, not necessarily restoring, but upcycling this pedestal table. I had picked it up at a local Value Village for $8, which I thought was a great deal. It is very heavy, solid wood piece, but I really don't like the orangish brown color that it's on, that it is now. So I will be painting it with chalk paint, and I will be using French linen chalk paint. And then, let's see, this is better. So French linen chalk paint, which I will paint the whole piece with, and then I will accent just a couple things with dark wax, and then I'm going to clear wax it. And the brush that I'm using, I can no longer find to link down below, so I have brushes that I've linked in my Amazon store that are good, just as good as this one. So make sure you go, if you're interested, check out my Amazon store under chalk painting supplies, and I will have the Annie Sloan chalk paint linked in a separate link. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, because there is no sanding required, and I checked the piece, it doesn't have any obvious things that need to be smoothed out. I will just give it a good cleaning, but depending on how that sticker right there is, I might sand that down, but I'm hoping that a damp cloth will clean it up. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure your piece is clean of anything on it. If you have to, you might want to give it just a light sanding if there's sticky stuff on it to take it off. But other than that, you're good to start painting. So that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clean it first, and then I'm gonna start painting. And I will most likely be applying 2 coats. So let me give you a little bit of a close-up. This will need about 2 to 3 hours to dry before I apply a second coat. So this had now 2 good coats on, and I'm going to let this dry for another about 2 hours, and then I'm going to move on to waxing. So I'm going to start using the wax now, and I'm just using the dark Annie Sloan wax, and I'm going to put it in just into these little crevices and the little designs, and as well at the bottom here, just to accent those a little bit more. So at this point I have decided that I was going to actually dark wax the whole leg, not just the accents, because I love the way it was turning out. So I just continued throughout the whole leg. I absolutely love the way the legs and the bottom turned out of the table, and I was contemplating whether I should do the same for the top, and actually did decide to wax the top as well. So I have decided to stain the top as well, as you saw, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. I will be adding the clear wax once this dark wax had time to cure a little bit, just maybe an hour or so, and then I'm gonna let the clear wax cure for a couple days, and then I'll just buff it out. So if you would like to see how I apply clear wax, I will have all of my videos linked down below. You can check it out so I don't repeat myself. But clear wax is important to apply because it is a protective layer. So it's like almost like sealer, and I use it on all my furniture that I redo, and it does make the furniture last and protects it for a lot longer. I can't stop looking at my dog. He's making me laugh, so it's hard to concentrate when he's laying like that right there. I am sharing my home sign that I have created using a leftover barn board from the frame that I created for my master bathroom mirror. The materials that I am using in this project are, so like I mentioned, the barn boards, and then this little hook, some white paint. It is just an acrylic paint, a paintbrush, a drill, and some screws, and two scraps of wood just to attach the two barn boards together. I also would like to mention that today's video is part of a collaboration that is hosted by Heidi from Heidi Ensemble DIY and Liana from DIY Beauty on Purpose. So there will be a playlist linked down below as well as their channels. So once I was finished screwing the two pieces of wood together, I took a piece of sandpaper and just wanted to sand down some areas that had some markings on. My husband had put X's on each board just to know which boards we weren't using for the mirror. So I wanted to take that off. Next, I use this long ruler to just mark off, separate the board into 4 so I know where my letters are gonna go, so they are somewhat of an equal size. Beneath the moonlit sky, the tears from her eyes, they came without warning as I held her in my arms. Shadows on the concrete. You don't have to worry. You don't need to be afraid of hurting me, 'cause you can't. Once I knew where my letters were gonna go, I freehanded them with the pencil, just in case if I mess up, so I can erase it. You could totally use stencil, print out and Mod Podge it on or rub it on. It really is up to you how you want to add the letters. I just figured the home word is fairly easy and I wasn't doing any special type of writing, so I did it by hand. And I ended up switching my pencils and used the white pencil just so I can see it better. They are dancing in the street. Maybe I do need to worry. Maybe I should be afraid of hurting you. Also want to mention, since this is a challenge, there will be a playlist linked down below with tons of different home signs inspiration for you, so make sure you go check out all the ladies that are participating in this challenge after you are done watching my video. So here I was just measuring to see where I would be placing my little hook, because for my O I will be adding a wreath. Now I currently only have the little summer wreath that I made a couple weeks back. I will link the video in the eye in the sky for you to check out if you want to see how I created this magnolia wreath. But my plan is to change up this wreath seasonally, so I will be creating one for every season. It's already broken from the start. So once I was happy with the way the letters looked, I ended up I started painting them, and I used two different paint brushes. I like using makeup brushes that I have that are old ones that I've cleaned for little detailed work, so like outlining stuff or getting into little areas where a bigger brush might not work. Upcycling this very heavy candelabra that I had picked up for $4 over at a thrift store and out of their garden center. They actually had a beautiful garden center this year, but I'm not too crazy about black. It doesn't necessarily go very well with a lot of the decor that I have. Maybe one day I will enjoy this, but as you can see, it has a lot of wear and tear. So I thought I painted a different color just to kind of go more with my style. And I already have two candelabras that are smaller, that this would look really well as a group with those two other ones or on its own. So I will be painting with my favorite chalk paint, Annie Sloan Cocoa, and then I'm going to be using white wax to soften it up. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing, I'm going to remove this sticker and just give it a good wipe down. I don't see. I'm gonna try and give it a little wipe down. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonia and this is my DIY channel. I also have two other channels, a home channel as well as a cooking channel, which will be linked down in the description box. Over here on my DIY channel, you will find dollar store DIYs, furniture makeovers, as well as trash to treasures, thrift store flips. So if this is something that interests you, I would love it if you consider pressing the subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. And I will have a link to my Instagram and my blog in the description box as well. I really like that look, so I'm going to continue that. Now I'm just going to go with whatever's left on here and just brush it over to give it a bit more dimension again. So I'm not dipping in, just almost like giving it a dry brush. And because you wiped off the paint, you can do this almost right away. And if your paintbrush ends up being too dry, not enough paint, you can always dip a little and wipe off most of it on a rag and just do that. You just want to make sure that you don't have much paint on it whatsoever. I love the way this looks now. I'm actually contemplating whether I should just leave it this way and not even add the white wax. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna really think about whether I'm gonna do anything more to it. Okay, so it's dry, and I just tried it over here on top with just a touch of white wax, and I do like the way it looks, so I will be adding it, but you could totally just leave it this way as well. And I'm just dipping it very lightly. And then I want it to be lumpy, so I'm just gonna spread it on a rag. I like it because it kind of goes into the little holes that are there. Love that it's almost giving it like a concrete look. As you can see, I am going a little bit heavier. I think this is perfect, and I will show you how it looks in my decor. Hot glue, and then you will need some of these that I had picked up. They're the greenery bouquets. If you haven't seen my haul, you should go check it out. I will link it in a corner. But so I picked these up at Dollar Tree. They're $1.25 because I'm in Canada. And I will be using these. I will also be using this grapevine wreath that I also, it's called willow wreath, that I also picked up at Dollar Tree, and then just some spray paint that I've had left over from my other projects. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to spray paint this willow tree with the spray paint and let it dry. So as you can see, I pulled apart everything and I kind of put them into little groupings of so they're all the same ones are together. And now I'm going to kind of figure out how I'm gonna do this. So I like to start by just putting stuff on without actually attaching it, just to kind of see how it's gonna look. So I think I know what I'm gonna do. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue where I want this thing to go. So here it is. I think it turned out so nice, and I think the easiest way to do something like this is to pull it apart the way I did it. I just think it makes it that much easier to make it the way you want to have it. For this next project, you will need a watering can from Dollarama. This one was $4, and usually they have them at this time of the year because they're getting all their I think I've seen some gardening supplies already, so be on the lookout. I love the size of this one. I think it's perfect. I know you can buy smaller ones that are the right color, but I love this one. Not crazy about the design, but that can be easily solved. And then you need some form of a twine, and then greenery. Now my greenery at this time I'm using had come from Hobby Lobby and from Michael's, but you can totally put any type of greenery that you can get at Dollarama. Has great greenery. I'm just using this one at this time for my decor. So and another thing that you need is some chalk paint. I have this little thing left over from my project. It's the Annie Sloan original. It's white, and you want to paint the can with the chalk paint. You can also use acrylic paint. I just think you'll probably need a bit more, but you can totally do it with acrylic paint. So here it is, all painted and dried. It has a pretty good coverage, as you can see. I like the little bit at the edges because it looks worn out. You might even want to take a sandpaper and sand some of it off just to make it look a little rougher, or you can just keep it as is. And then I like to take some twine or jute rope, in my case nautical rope, and just tie it. You can do a longer rope, and then add the greenery end. I think this looks really nice. I think it's a great addition to your decor. It can be totally used all year long, and I think with these lamps here it looks great for my winter decor. You will need beads. Now I had picked these up at Michael's, and I used my 45% coupon, and they were $3.15 I think with tax. You can get these at Dollarama. I know that you can. I just could not find them. They were all out. I went to 2 or 3 different ones and they didn't have them, so then I just ended up at Michael's. But you can definitely find these at Dollarama. I haven't seen them at Dollar Tree, but I did see them at Dollarama. And I also picked up this cotton twine. This one did come from Dollar Tree, so $1.25 for 2. And then you need a pencil, scissors, and a needle with a wide, just so you can see it here, wide mouth or whatever it is. Come on, focus. You get the point. I hope I can thread this thing through it. I think I know what I'm doing, but we'll see. Alright, and now I'm going to make little tassels for the ends. I'm going to thread this through. Untie it. So that's one end, and now I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. So here they are, here it is. I think it turned out awesome and I love it, and I think it came for, like, this is how much I have left over from that one twine, and I got 2 of them for $1.25. I got 2 packages for $6.30, and I used 1.5 packages. So really I think it turned out to be under maybe $4.50 or so. I am going to be using this Dollar Tree pumpkin. It's a foam pumpkin that I picked up at Dollar Tree, obviously, and some low heat glue gun. This one is from Dollarama, and it's not very hot, and which is what you want in order not to melt your foam pumpkin. I am going to use some chalky finish spray paint in classic white that I picked up at Michael's, as well as some Annie Sloan soft dark wax. It doesn't have to be Annie Sloan, just like this doesn't have to be the Krylon. It can be any chalk paint and dark wax that you might have on hand, and if you do not have those on hand, you can always kind of modify it with some acrylic paint and maybe even, yeah, brown and white acrylic paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this because I do not love these. So I'm going to be putting a piece of wood on there, and then I'm going to take my glue gun and just accent all the crevices of the pumpkin. And you want this to be a very thin line going down. And now I'm going to just do a little drops all over. And like I said, you want to use a low heat, because if you do a high heat, it might melt the styrofoam. So you want to let this dry, which doesn't take long at all, and I just want to show you how it looks right now. So once it's dry, and to know that it's fully dried, you want the glue to almost turn whitish versus the clear. So I have a little bit more to go. So it's ready. Okay, let that dry completely. So here is the pumpkin, just to kind of show you what it looks like. And now I'm going to take some of the dark wax . Just want to make sure I don't have a giant clump of wax. And I'm just going to go all over. Let's see if I can do a better job with the brush. So I think I'm going to do it with a rag, and then I'm going to go into little crevices with a brush. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Okay, now I'm going to put the little stem on it and see what it looks like all put together. So I'm going to add the stem. Let's put a little bit of hot glue just so it stays in place. A no-sew stocking. I am making this stocking from dollar store material, so it's a dollar store no-sew stocking, and I'm making it for my dog actually, because everybody else has it. But after I made it, I actually decided that we all need one just like it. So make sure you stay till the end because it looks spectacular. I am using leftover blanket from Dollarama that I've had on hand from a different project. Then I'm using a leftover fur from a different project, as well as this black chalk marker just to mark stuff off. And then I'm gonna use a rotary cutter and a pair of scissors and some cutouts that I did with my Cricut. I did try to do a cutout with letters because I was going to put his name across it, but that didn't work very well, so I just decided to use the paw prints. So first thing I'm doing is drawing out the boot and kind of figuring out what size I wanted and where I want it to be.
I remember Christmas as a child, waking up to I need more of.
When you are cutting out this stocking, make sure you cut the opposite sides if your blanket has two different sides, feels to it. That way you can have the same look on both sides. I hope this makes sense.
Cutting out birds of paper and pretending they would live. Wrap them up with ties and bows. Whatever's in them, no one knows. Oh, can I please, please have that back? That Christmas joy I once had as a boy. That Christmas peace when heart and soul were both at ease. That Christmas love. We all need.
Once I was done cutting it out, I took my hot glue gun and glued it inside out.
That Christmas joy I once had as a boy. That Christmas
The reason why I am using hot glue, if you've been watching my channel, I do not know how to sew. I am planning on taking sewing lessons once COVID is over and I can actually go to a class, not do a virtual one. But I have done no-sew pillow tutorials before and they hold up pretty well. So I don't see why this wouldn't work either. Once I have turned it, once it had a chance to cool off, I turn it inside out and then I add the fur. Now I cut the fur a lot longer than it's necessary because I do want it to overlap a little bit, have that thicker look. Then I hot glued the paw prints that I cut out of burlap with my Cricut machine. last thing that I do is add a piece of rope to the end of it, just so I have somewhere to hang it. I tie the rope in a knot, and then I use hot glue and Gorilla Glue to attach the rope, just in case if I put something fairly heavy in it, so it doesn't come right off. With another furniture upcycle, I have gotten this piece from a friend. She phoned me up and said she was getting rid of it, so then if I wanted it, she knew I like to upcycle furniture and things like that, so I took it. And let me tell you, this piece is heavy. It is solid wood. It did have, however, some dings on top, some scratches, some discoloration and whatnot. So the first thing that I will be doing is sanding the top down. Now, I'm not looking to get it to the raw wood, but I want to sand out some of the major imperfections. Some imperfections are okay, but these were more like, it looked like somebody put something wet and left it there, so it kind of lost its color and so stuff like that. I just wanted to buff that out, sand it out. I am using a hand sander, and to be quite honest with you, I just found a sanding disc in a garage. I can link it down below which number it was, but I can't quite remember right offhand. It was just whatever I had on hand, just because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't looking for something perfect, because I wanted it to look rustic, so I wanted some spots to be darker and some spots to be lighter. So, but I am using my hand sander to do that, and I'm just sanding the top and the little trim around the top, not the skirt, but just the trim. Once I was done, I wiped it down with just some vinegar and water just to dust it off and clean it off. And then I started with, once it was dry, I ended up staining it with this old man stain. I will link it down below. It is in Spanish oak, and I love this stains. Now, it is a gel stain, so, and you don't need to strip the table before you apply the stain. It's not necessary, or sand it down. You can go right over top of it as well. I have several videos where I just went straight on top. I will just link my furniture makeover playlist in the description box, so that way you can see all the different ways that I refinish furniture. And I am using a brush to apply the stain, and then I'm just using an old rag to rub it in. And you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. So once it was the first coat went on, I waited a little bit before I applied the second coat. I did only 2 coats. Then I moved on to painting, and I am using any Sloan Original, or it used to be called Old White, and just a brush from Benjamin Moore. That's a cottage, I think it's called Cottage Country. It is their chalk paint brush, and if I find it, I will link it down below. If not, I will link all the brushes that I have from Amazon that I like using as well, from my Amazon store. So I painted this the base and I think it's called the apron of the table with 2 coats of this paint. So once it was all finished, painted and dry, I ended up taking the same sandpaper and just sanding out areas that you want to look distressed. I did that for the skirt, the apron, and for the bottom and the legs. For the bottom, I am using the Rust-Oleum Glossy Chalk Finish, and I put this all over where I applied the chalk paint. For the top, on top of the stain, I'm using this water-based sealer. I will link it down below, and a foam brush to apply it. I put down 2 coats of this, and you want to let it dry in between. and you also want to make sure that the stain is completely dry, so several hours or 24 hours before you apply it. For my next project, I have been wanting to create a menu board that I can keep in my kitchen and just attach all the meals that we're having for the week, and kind of show them, so that way the kids can just look at it and see what we're having for dinner. Now, some of these menu boards can range anywhere from $40 to $70 on Etsy, and I haven't even looked at the prices at regular stores like HomeSense or any of them, because I'm sure the price would be maybe even higher. So I had picked up this piece of wood from a friend of mine for free, and I will be using these stencils from Dollar Tree that I cut up, and some of the white acrylic paint, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use the painter's tape. I will use a white marker and my chalkboard white marker, and also I had picked up these clips at a Dollar Tree that I will be using. Now they were $1.25. So my cost for this board is $1.25 because the amount of paint and really just the paint that I used is so minimal. So for the word weekly, I'm going to use a marker because I want it to be a bit thinner than my word menu. For the word menu, I'm using my chalkboard marker. This is a bit thicker. It is actually the same consistency as chalk. I just feel that I have a bit more control with it than actually using chalk on its own. I did decide to go just thinly over the word weekly with the chalk because I felt that the marker was wasn't bright enough. For the day of the week, I will be stenciling them on, and I'm just gonna do the 3 letters for all of them, and I'm going to use one of my stencils as a guide for the spacing as well. And as I always say, when you're stenciling, you want to dab, not actually like rub on. except for the areas underneath the letter that I messed up a little bit with paint just because the stencil wasn't wide enough. I just took a piece of sandpaper and just sanded it down, and that did the trick.
Never knew that it could feel this way when you're lying next to someone.
Now the last step for the menu board is to attach these clips that I had picked up, like I said, for $1.25, which is the only thing that I had bought for this project. And I will be hot gluing them. And I'm going to use index cards to put in the middle, but as you can see, this index card is a little wide, so I end up cutting them in half just to fit a little nicer. And I'm using a ruler as a guide just to know the middle part where to hot glue the clip.
Some time now, I just hope that you stay for a little while. You fix what's broken when you make that smile. So just stay for a little while. So just stay for a
I did buy a broomstick that got cut to size. These came from a friend, as well as some of the wood that came from a friend. Then I am using this is the garden tie thing, and then I was going to use a chain but didn't have time to get out to the store, so I'm just using some of the jute rope to be able to hang this up. I came across this idea and I thought it would be very neat, and I have a perfect spot for it, so I thought I shared with you. I am also going to be using this hammered spray paint. I think this is it's kind of like a bronzy color. I'm not quite sure what the color is called, but I'm going to be using that one, and I'm also going to be using a little bit of black and maybe even brown acrylic paint. I will kind of have to go through it and see what the finish is that turning out before I decided exactly whether I'm going to use brown as well. And I'm going to also use hot glue, and then I'm going to use some screws and a screw gun, and yeah, I think that's it. So first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to assemble this, because I want to be able to get it to dry in time. I absolutely hate these Dollarama stickers that are impossible to take off. I don't understand the point of this. Okay, so I'm going to hot glue this like this. So like I mentioned, this was a broomstick that I cut to make sure that it's the right distance, that it is right in the middle. So once the glue had time to dry, I take this wire and I cut it and double it up, and then I just wrap it around. This is more for decoration rather than anything else. spray paint this. Oh, actually, not quite yet. I almost forgot a step. I'm going to attach these to the ends. Now I'm gonna spray paint them. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry before I move on to anything else. So this wood, I'm going to assemble it this way. Just making sure I have all the wood I want at the front and at the back. So I'm gonna flip it. And for now, I'm just going to hot glue it together, but we'll add the screws in. This is just to keep it in place. There we go. Going to just clean it up a little bit. So now I'm going to just do some writing on here, and I'm going to, of course, try and use my Sharpie water-based paint marker in black. So I'm going to add a little bit of black paint to this spray painted thing, just to make it a little bit more rustic. I'm going to hot glue this to the wood. gonna show you what it looks like. I've decided I'm not going to add the rope. I'm gonna wait till I get the chain. So I'm just gonna show you how it looks propped up against the wall. I had picked up this glass container or vase or whatever it's called. It was $4 at Dollarama. And then I have some rocks for weighing it down, a piece of wood, and then I also have this ball that came from IKEA a long time ago. And but I know dollar store sells them. They might be a touch smaller. And then I'm going to paint it. Now I don't have a lot of acrylic paint left, and when I went and got this bowl, the Dollarama that I went to was completely out of paint. So I will be using chalk paint instead, which is really not what I planned on doing, but it is what I ended up doing because I didn't have a choice. So anyways, so I'm using the charcoal black from Chalk Paint by Rust-Oleum, white one from Rust-Oleum Chalk Paint, and then I also have Paris Gray. I think it's Paris Gray. If it's, I have it in this tin. I have to double check which one it is, but it's a gray color by Annie Sloan. Because I want to create almost a cement look on this glass bowl. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this sticker and give the bowl a wipe down because it looks a little dusty. So I'm going to start with my stenciling brush, but I might end up using something else if this takes a long time. So I had put the 3 paints here and I'm going to start applying them. So now I'm just going to go and see where there's still glass showing and just go over it. I think that turned out really nice. Let me see if I can lift it and show you. I think it does look a lot like concrete. And now for the middle, I got this piece of wood to fit it in because I want to hot glue this piece to it because I didn't want it to fly all around. But on its own, it's not going to be heavy enough. So I got some of these rocks to add to it, just to weigh it down on each side a little bit. Because it's going to sit on my table and I don't want to have to put it away every single time it's windy outside. now I'm going to apply a generous amount of glue. But I think I'm going to use some of this deer moss to fill it in as well. Because I think this on its own is not gonna sit well. I mean, it's gonna show stuff through. You can put whatever you want. I think this would also look good with some of those, what are they called? Succulents. And there we go. I will show you, hopefully I can show you what it looks like on my table outside. If not, I will have to show you what it looks like on my kitchen table because it is pouring outside today. Here are the materials you are going to need. I have had these little tin containers that came on a tray, and I will be using this tray but for a different craft. So I've got this, and so you need 3 of them. I have a piece of board that just from other projects left over. You need a bowl. I am using a gel stain to stain my board, some sandpaper and some vinegar, and then a whole bunch of rags, and you will also need some greenery to finish this off, and then a glue gun. So I'm going to, first things first, I'm going to get my tins. I want to age this metal, and I saw a couple different ways of doing it online, but this one is the one that I have stuff for. It's using vinegar and some rags and sandpaper, so I'm going to try it that way and I hope that it works. So first thing you want to do is you just want to rough up certain spots. Nothing too much, just a little bit of roughness, I guess, and that way I guess it might penetrate a little bit better in certain spots or whatnot. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it'll work. If not, we'll just go from there and see what we can do. Don't know if it works unless you try. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Okay, so then you want to fill up your enough vinegar so you can saturate a rag. I'm gonna get it all saturated. And now I'm going to wrap this up completely. And you're supposed to let it sit for about an hour or so. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for all the other ones. So while those are being saturated with vinegar, I'm going to stain my board. I think it's actually better on this side. And I'm just going to use, I think I'm just gonna go with a rag to do that. I'm not even going to use a brush. It's messier on my hands, but I like the way it turns out much better. So just tap it and then just rub it on, and you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. I love this stain. It's the Old Masters gel stain, and it's in Spanish oak. And a little goes a long way. So I'm gonna let this dry. It doesn't take long at all because I didn't apply too much on it. So I have actually left these soaking in vinegar, wrapped up in a rag for about 4 hours, and this is the result. I'm sure if you left it a little longer, it would be more, maybe darker spots would show up, but I am quite happy with the way this looks. It just took away that super shiny look that the pots had. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my board and I'm going to hot glue each pot. I just have to figure out the spacing where I want them exactly. This is about right. Just gonna make sure that there's an equal amount of distance. So right there. Get my middle one in, then the other ones will be easier. So there, and I'll show you what it looks like with the pots in it. I mean with the plants in it. So for my next project, I have this from Dollarama. It was $4. I've had it laying around, and I had an idea to make a sign with Mod Podge, just something easy. Just not sure how this is gonna work, but I will give it a try. I think I can make it work. So I'm gonna cut this out first, and I just printed it off of internet, like off of, I think it was Pinterest. Now that I have it cut out, I am going to apply a generous amount of Mod Podge on the back of it, so that way I make sure that it is glued to it well. Just trying to center it the best that I can. Now I will make the cuts in where the cuts are. I just think it'll look better that way, and then I'm going to apply another generous amount of Mod Podge over top of it, just so that way it's on permanently. So I was going to distress the outsides of it or even paint it, but I absolutely love the way this sign turned out. It was so simple to make. Love it, love it, love it. So I had picked up, this is not necessarily ugly, it is quite damaged, but I had picked up one of these at I think it was it was Value Village. It was $3, and it does need some sort of help or makeover or a new life or something like that. I have several of these in my house that I use for different things, but I thought this one would be good to maybe as a side table, or I sometimes edit my videos in my family room, and it would be nice to be able to have like a little higher table to set my computer on while I sit on a couch. So maybe I'll use it for that. But I have come up with idea how I want to paint it, and obviously first I'm going to have to give it a little bit of sanding, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually take a power sander or if I'm just gonna try do it by hand. We'll see how it goes and make my decision based on that. But then I'm going to use some chalk paint because it is what I do. I love chalk painting, and I have this duck egg blue, and I've had this paint forever, and it is a bit thick, so I'm going to be adding water to it to thin it out. That's the beauty of chalk paint. You can just give it new life with just adding some water. And then for sure I'm gonna go over with black wax, and then the top so that's for the legs, and then for the top I'm going to do the linen white from Rust-Oleum, and I might use my country gray to do maybe a little pattern or something on top, but we'll see. So I had collapsed the piece just so it's a little bit easier to work. And then I have this, which is 80, I think, grade paper, and so I'm gonna try and use this. And then I have several other ones that I had picked up at Dollar Tree. Now when you use chalk paint, as I mentioned in my other projects, there's not a ton of prep work done, but if your piece has stuck on stuff or sticky stuff or tape or grease or anything like that, the paint will not stick. So there is a little bit of prep work required. Sometimes it's just as much as just washing the piece down, or sometimes it's just giving it a light sanding to get the stuff off. You don't have to strip it completely if you're just going for the chalk painted look. Okay, so that's good. I'm just gonna give it a little wipe. I just have some water here. I'm just gonna wet it a little bit just to give it a little wipe. Okay, now I'm going to shake my paint, and I'm going to paint my top first. And I'm using my cottage paintbrush from Benjamin Moore. It's a chalk paintbrush. So the first coat is on. Now I'm going to move on to the legs and let the first coat dry. So I'm going to add some water. And give it some shake and a stir. I think it's a good consistency, and I'm using a different brush just so I don't have to wash the other one, since I'm gonna be painting the top soon enough. Let me just show you the color. And now I'm going to continue painting the rest of it, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So the legs are all painted, and I'm just going to keep it at that one coat. I'm going to be applying black wax, so it doesn't need another coat of the duck egg blue, but the top will definitely need a second coat, and that's what I'm gonna do now, and I'll show you once it's all done before I do the black wax. So now that the paint has dried, I'm going to apply some dark wax onto the legs only. And the way I do it, I cover the whole area, and now I'm going to take my lint-free rag and take some of it off. So let me just show you up close the difference between one with wax and one without. I really like the color that it makes it with the black wax. So I'm gonna wax the rest of the legs. So I am done with the legs, and now I'm going to move on to the top part. I'm gonna do a little pattern. So for this, I'm gonna use my Chateau Gray, and I also have two different size of paint tape, and I'm going to make like a little pattern with it. Saturating my paintbrush heavily because I don't want it to make a huge mess. And don't forget to paint the edges too. Now is the best part, the reveal, and you want to remove the paint after you're done painting, so that way it doesn't dry and rip the edges. I'm going to let this dry and then show you how it looks in my decor. So the supplies that I'm using is this, I did keep the wrapping for it, but it is a tree mug tree. I had picked this up at Dollarama, but it is extremely light, and I'm thinking if I were to actually use it to hang up mugs, it would tip over. So I have decided to use it for something else. So, but I will be cutting these off. I don't think that they're screwed on like these ones. It doesn't look like it, so I might be just breaking them off or cutting them off. Then I got these little dog bowls that I will be painting everything. I've got some rope. This is the jute rope, and then I've got these dowels, the large ones. And then I'm gonna be using, you can use black acrylic paint, but I will be using the charcoal chalked paint, in color charcoal from Home Depot, wood glue and hot glue, and then obviously I need something to cut these off. And I might also use some of these, but I'm not 100% sure whether I will. So first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to glue 4 of these together. So just so you know, I had purchased all of these before for other projects or things. So I purchased this because I was going to use it as for a tree mug stand. I have purchased these because we were getting a new puppy, but I bought it before I got the dog and realized that they were way too small, and it even says cat dishes, but I thought he was a puppy, but he was much bigger. I had these on hand as well as these. So some stuff might not be ideal. It might not be what I was going to use it for, but it is what I'm using it for now, and I'm trying to make the best of the supplies that I have on hand since we cannot go out. So having said that, the top I would have liked to have had maybe a solid piece like this, but I don't, so I will be gluing 4 of these and creating a top for that. So, you know, gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm going to put some wood glue first, and then I'm going to use hot glue. So wood glue for longer, and then hot glue for shorter. This is glued. Now I'm gonna set it aside to dry, and then I'm going to cut these off, try and remove them. So I had removed these, and then I'm going to go get a little sander just to sand the edge off a little bit here, so that way it's more smoother. And then I'm going to assemble it. So I'm going to place this right in the middle. Just want to make sure it is right in the middle. Yeah, right smack in the middle. I'm just going to mark it, and then I'm going to put wood glue all around, and then a dab of hot glue so I can keep working on it. Okay, and then for the sides here, I'm going to use these just as a finishing. These wood balls that I have, and I just had these on hand from my craft supply. And then for the top, I have a ping pong ball, and I'm going to put that on top. So I'm just gonna give this a minute to dry completely, and I'm going to start painting it. My paint's a touch dry, so I'm just adding a splash of water into it.
If you believe in love, how will I feel it? If you believe in me.
So for all the little areas that the other paintbrush didn't reach, I'm going to use a smaller paintbrush and just fill them in.
How it do.
So while this one dries, I am going to paint the bowls. I am so not a fan when they stick these heavy-duty stickers in here. Alright, so I got all the stuff off of these and I'm going to paint them. I'm just gonna dry it. I did have to use some acetone to remove the sticky part.
Come again, it's now or never. We're going away.
Okay, so this next part is going to be a little bit challenging to make. So I'm going to use the rope to create a hanging, to hang these pots from it, but you want to make sure that they are equal length, because otherwise it's not gonna be balanced. So let's see how this will work out. So I'm going to cut two pieces. Well, yeah, two pieces the same length. And then I'm going to take these two pieces and make a loop that's big enough to hang. I'm starting to think I didn't cut this long enough. Okay, so I'm gonna make a longer ones. I can always trim them if they're too long. Can't make them longer if they're too short. Okay. So there we go, and now same thing again. Actually, I should probably cut 4. I have enough rope if I make mistakes. And I can always reuse the rope for something else. So you want to cut 4 the same length. Okay. Then you take 2, you make a loop right in the middle, there, and then measure enough opening to fit, then tie it up. Oh, for crying out loud. So that's a good length. Now I'm going to try and make the exact same thing. Exact same thing for this one. They're pretty similar. So there. Now I'm going to hot glue them onto here, and this will determine how good I'm doing. So I'm going to go right to the edge, so that way that will be almost like my measure. Just gonna wait for each one of them to dry before I start working on the other one, the other side. So I'm going to glue one exactly opposite of the other one. 4 corners. 12, 3, 6, and 9. And for a little bit more, just so it doesn't break on me, I am going to add a little bit of hot glue on top as well. So here, this one is already hanging nicely, but this one, if you look, it's a little bit crooked, so I'm just going to try and fix it. Okay, that's much better. Now the question is it hung up equally? And it is. That's good. So there it is, all finished. I'm going to decorate it and then show you how it looks in my decor. Okay, so here are the supplies that you will need. I had mine some cut at Home Depot and some cut at home. So I had bought one 1x2x10, one 1x2x8, and one 1x10x4. Now I'm gonna write it all out for you in the description box. And I had cut my 1x10x4, which is this one, into, so it's 10x10. So I cut 2 pieces like that. And then I took my 2x10 and cut it into 4. So they're 2.5 feet each. And then the 1x2x8 I had cut into into 1 5.25, so 4 5.25 and 4 7.25. You just want them to fit inside, so you might have to measure it out because some of the wood wasn't perfectly as they said. And then I also cut 4 1-inch pieces for legs. So I'm going to get started. Now you need wood glue clamps, and I'm thinking I might need screws, but we'll see whether I'm gonna need screws and a screw gun. I'm gonna try to do this with wood glue. So the first thing that I'm going to do is glue my feet. And they're just gonna go on the edge here. And here, in all corners. This is where I think I'm going to need something. So I'm going to glue this piece right here. I will end up screwing it in. I found some screws. That should work. So I will screw it in. So just so you see, I put some weight on the bottom just to get the legs going, curing without moving. And now I'm going to assemble a little box on top here. So I'm going to assemble it off, and then I'm going to glue it on once I measure exactly where I want it to go. So I've got these, so now I'm going to glue them. I'm going to put the glue on the bottom and on the sides. This one turns out it's a little bit shorter, and I'm just tired of cutting. So I have these paint sticks that I have had left over from a project, so I'm just going to score it and put it in, just so there's no gap. There we go. Perfect. And now I'm gonna, this one's perfect. That's the beauty of working with wood. One's too tight, other one's too small. And then I'm going to figure out where exactly I want this on top, and then I'm going to just give it a rough measure, and I'm going to glue it. I think it should technically be an inch, and then about an inch, and about an inch. Just a smidgen over. And since it's not glued on yet, I'm just gonna put some glue on it. I don't know why I put glue on there, but there and there. So now I'm going to put the weight on top and let this dry for a whole day. So now I continue with painting it, and I'm using the linen white as the first coat. So I'm going to continue painting, but I'm not going to bore you with it. I'll come back when it's all painted. So here it is, and I have decided actually to maybe even add some French linen by Annie Sloan chalk paint, but I'm going to dry brush this paint on. So if you don't know what the dry brush technique is, you dip the paintbrush lightly into the paint, and then you almost dab almost all of it off so your brush is almost dry, and then you just brush it gently over the areas where you want it to show. So I'm gonna continue doing this, and then I'll come back before I show you with the gray. Show you what that looks like. I think it just gave it a little bit of a, I think I'm gonna go for like a bit of a coastal look, but it's not done yet. So I'll show you what it looks once I add the gray, the French linen. So I kind of started with the French linen. It's kind of hard to see. I'll give you a bit of a better close-up, and I'm doing the same type of technique that I was doing with the other paint. Just very dry brushing. Just think it's gonna give the lantern so much more depth, I guess, or I don't even know what this would be called. Texture. And I do love the way it's turning out. So I will continue and then I'll give you a close-up. So here it is. I think I'm done. I love, love, love the way this turned out. It looks so rustic and coastal a little bit, farmhousey. I don't even know. It looks like a Sonja style. So I'm going to attach a piece of jute rope over here just for like a handle, and I'm just gonna do it with hot glue. So here it is, and it's just the stuff you buy at the dollar store. So here it is. I will be making over 2 side tables. I had picked these up for $25 each. I have 2 of them, and I will be using them in my family room to go along with my table that I had made over a couple years ago. So I will be sanding the top just a little bit, not as much as I did with the coffee table, but just enough to get rid of the scratches and any imperfections that were caused by wear and tear. I will be painting the top with a watered down Paris gray, and then I'm gonna top it up with the black wax and then protect it with clear wax, and the bottom is going to be painted with the original Annie Sloan original, which used to be called Old White. So I have cleaned the table already, the side table, and for the little crevices, as you can see, the little designs, which I will show you right now, these ones right here, sorry, my trusted assistant is here, for those little design details there, they were very dusty, so I used an old toothbrush to clean it all out. So for the paint mixture, I'm doing 3 parts water to 1 part paint. And the paintbrush I'm just using, it's a Legacy. Anyways, I got it at Home Depot. I went and I wiped some of it off just because I really want the imperfections to show. When I redid my coffee table, I sanded it completely down. There was no stain on it. I stripped it, I sanded it. This one, I wanted to give it a try without sanding it, but I still wanted a little wood imperfections like that one right there to show. And so I applied the paint and then I took some of it off just so that would come through. Now I'm going to paint the legs, and I'm using the old white or the original to do that. For the paintbrush, I'm using the Benjamin Moore chalk paintbrush, the cottage paintbrush. So that was one coat of old white on the bottom. I'm just gonna show you what that all looks like. As you can see, it's not fully covered, so it's going to definitely need a second coat. The top, I really like the way it looks, but it's not what I'm going for. So I need to kind of at least try to match it, but this is definitely a look that I could do on a different piece of furniture because I do love the way the top looks without the black wax. So I'm gonna wait for this to dry and then I'm going to apply black wax. So I'm going to use my black wax and a lint-free rag, and I'm going to just dip it and then apply it and then rub it in. So unfortunately this did not work the way I wanted to, so I will sand the top down completely. Because when I started applying the wax, the black wax, it started taking off the paint as well. And the paint was dry, so I'm not sure what, maybe it's the type of a finish that's on it that's not working, or I didn't rough it up enough. So I'm going to give it a good sanding. Okay, so I had sanded it down most of it, as you can see, and now I'm gonna repaint it with the watered down Paris gray, and hopefully this will work. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry now, and then I'm gonna paint the second coat of white, and then I'm gonna do the wax. So I am going to apply the black wax now. So here it is with the black wax. I ended up using a brush to apply it. I just worked a little bit easier. So I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit, and I'm gonna clear wax the whole table for maximum protection. And I already started working on my other table, side table, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So to apply the clear wax, I'm using the Annie Sloan clear wax. I'm just using a dollar store brush. Dip it a little bit in, make sure it's not overly saturated, and then I brush it on in a circular motion. And you don't want to put too much because it will be too tacky, but you don't want to put not enough. And then you will always, once it had some time to sit, I will come back with the rag and just wipe it off. So I had found this. It just popped up one day as I was searching for something else, but I thought it was so cute. It was the vintage Easter bunny wooden wall decor, and it was from Wayfair.ca, and because I'm in Canada, and the price blew my mind away. Check this bunny out, and it was $105.99. It was 18 inches high, 15 inches wide, and 0.5 inch deep. Yeah, so half an inch deep? Yes. So mine is probably a bit bigger than what theirs is, and I had picked up my bunny at Dollarama for $3. I have had this pallet wood left over from a different project at home already. Same with this, came from a different project that I just cut a piece off. I just built a lantern, and this is the wood I was using, and that was a piece I had left over. And another material that I will use is supplies, is the chalked linen white paint. And then I'm also going to use the Emperor's Silk by Annie Sloan. I'm going to paint the wood with the linen white, and then I'm going to mix those two to create the pink that the bunny has, and then maybe I will add a bit of dark wax on the edges or a little bit of brown paint. You could do that as well, just very lightly brush it on. So I'm excited. I was so excited when I found this bunny, and then even more excited when I saw what I was gonna make out of it and the money saving that I will be doing. So I will save $102 by making my own bunny. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble the stand, and I am just going to apply some wood glue on the outside of this wood, and then I'm going to screw it from the bottom just for a little bit extra support. I'm also going to put some wood glue on the bottom there, and I'm going to just give it a little screw at the bottom. So this is all secured now and holding, so I'm going to paint it, and I'm doing the linen white by Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I'm going to let this dry, and I'm gonna work on my bunny. So for the bunny, I'm going to remove all of these things. And I'm going to sand it down to get rid of the glitter as much as I can. So I think this is pretty good. I'm just going to get rid of some of this glitter. So now I'm going to mix up my paint, and I'm going to do about 2 teaspoons of white to a small spoonful of red, and then go from there. I think this is pretty good. Okay. Now I'm going to paint my bunny, And I took, when I was sanding, I took the edges off, so that way when it dries I can sand it instead of putting like dark wax or brown paint. Just make sure whenever you're mixing the paint, you mix up enough, because no matter how much you measure the next time when you're mixing up paint, it never ends up getting the same tone of color or the same ratios. It never works out. So there, I'm going to let him dry. I'm not gonna add more paint because I think that's enough. And then I'm going to sand him down and glue him onto my board that I made. I just realized that some of the blue is showing on the edges, so I'm just going to make sure that those edges are covered with paint as well. Okay, I'm gonna let him dry. And I also forgot to remove this part, the little stand, so I'm gonna do that once he's dry too. So the piece has dried. I am just going to try and remove this. There we go. That wasn't hard at all. I'm going to sand him down just to create that aged look, the antique look. I think he did have a bit more on it, so maybe I'll take some of my aging wax and just add it to it a little bit. So I'm gonna use any Sloan dark wax. To take a rag and just wrap it in just so there's no clumps. So I think that's pretty good, pretty close to the, I don't think you can actually see it very well in this light. And I'm going to hot glue him to this. The item that I'm trying to replicate, and this is what mine looks like. So I will show you again now. So the materials that I'm using for this project are, I have picked up this blanket for $4 at Dollarama and ago, and they have these fluffy blankets, really nice and soft, for $4. I have picked up two. One is in my decor and one I thought I make the pillow. Then the next material that I'm going to use is this old curtain that I've had from, I didn't like the loops on it. It didn't really work well, so I kept it for just different projects. And hot glue gun, and that's it. So I'm going to get started. First thing, I'm gonna cut out all my materials. So I have my dark fabric and I've cut out some letters and I'm gonna trace them on. My letters are all cut out, and now I'm going to get my pillow cut out, form cut out. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to measure this material. And I'm doing the folded side. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as the folded side is good. Now I'm going to turn it this way so the soft sides are inside. Make sure it lines up somewhat. Just marking off my middle. So I'm going to glue this here. And I'm using my less hot glue so I don't get burnt. Cut out one extra one, and you can still use it on here as well. I'm not sure if I will or not yet. I'm going to close it, fold it, and close it. So I'm gonna put my hot glue and then fold it. Then for this one, because I wanted to be able to put my pillow in, I am going to just give a little corners If you were stuffing the pillow, I would suggest do more of a closure, and then you stuff your pillow and then you can close it. I'm just going to leave it like this, and then put the pillow in and then go from there. Okay, so I turned it inside out, and I'm going to glue down the letters. You kind of want to center them. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm going to put the pillow inside of it and show you what it looks like. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed my top 20 of 2020, and if this is your first time stopping by, I make sure you press that subscribe button and a notification bell, and I will see you all in the New Year's. I am taking a little bit of a break from posting. If you follow along, you saw that this was my first video since Christmas, so just taking a little break to spend the time with the family. And I will be back with a posting schedule on January 3rd, where I will be announcing what my plans are for all of my channels. So make sure you tune into that. And until then, I hope you guys have a very happy New Year, and I can't wait to start the New Year with sharing content with you. So until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.